Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
I've never seen that before in my life. Like, did they run out of paint?
And Brandon Schultz.
Don't be an armchair scientist. The Seahawks, they know what they're doing.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 218 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. Joining me, my good buddy, Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
What up, man? I wish this was a podcast we were doing post-win. Unfortunately, it is post-loss. But some good things to take away from the Denver game. Got an exciting game coming up against Chicago. Can't wait to get into all of it with you, man.
Yeah, I wish we were doing this on non-hurricane season. Man, seeing Florence bear down on South Carolina. I know we have some members of the flock over in that area. I have some family over in that area, so watching that closely,
Guess where
too.
I was supposed to be Friday, tomorrow.
Oh, over there, huh?
Yeah, I was supposed to be exactly where it's hitting. And I was like, yeah, maybe we'll grind wheels a different weekend, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Better to pick a different weekend.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some things to talk about post-Seahawks game. You know, it always feels different right after the game versus having a couple days to think about it, being able to look at some things over again going on with the game. And you just generally have a different perspective a few days after.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I feel very much as I did with our first post-game show. I mean, similar thoughts. Then again, I wasn't able to rewatch it. That'll be a subject of my do better. A few things to take away is the number one thing to me. I don't know if you want to get right into the Denver game right out of the gate here, but Jermaine Ifedi still stinks.
You know what, though? You mentioned you didn't get a chance to go back and rewatch it. I think there might be a discussion to be had there.
There's not.
I don't know if he was as bad as it felt like after the game.
Ask Russell Wilson how it felt after the game.
Yeah, well, you know what? He had something to do with it.
Because he had to ice up, yo.
He had a rough day, too. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the O-line. We'll talk about Doug Baldwin's knee. We'll talk about just some of the highlights from the game. And we have the two guys from the Bears Brothers podcast coming on the show to break down our upcoming matchup with the Bears.
Will and Nick are great. Got to go on their show as well and do a little preview of the game. And, you know, sometimes, Brandon, like, I get sucked into stupid things. And there was a commenter on the YouTube after I had been on the show, and I had mentioned that Russell was a top 5 quarterback. You know, a rough comparison to Aaron Rodgers. Like, they're in the same league as elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tony Jackson, from apparently a Bears fan, took umbrance. And he basically said that, you know, it was laughable that they were in the same category. And so I came back at him with facts, logic, and reason, like, hey, number 1 all-time in passer rating is Aaron Rodgers, and then number 2 is, well, looky there, Russell Wilson. There's some facts, logic, and reason there. His basic response was, Russell's still not that good. Like, it was just laughable. I was like, okay. And that just by only giving one stat, that wasn't a valid argument. And so, you know, come back basically that I was delusional. Okay, that's fine. Like, all right, well, also I can count Super Bowl appearances. I'm sane enough to still do that. I'm not that delusional. And Russell's been to the Super Bowl twice and Aaron Rodgers once. And, you know, he came back and basically said that I was illiterate and that it was fun arguing with me anyways, but then misspelled arguing.
You are so literate that you just came up with a new word, umbrance.
Umbrage.
There you go.
Hey, Shakespeare made up words. Why not me?
I'm not saying that you can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you're actually quite adept at it, apparently.
Which I found amusing. You call somebody illiterate and then misspell something. So that was neat. You know, basically the whole argument the entire time was Russ isn't that good. Well, here's the thing, bud. They're both top 5 quarterbacks. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's better than Aaron Rodgers. I understand that you think Aaron Rodgers is a god that fell from heaven because he's owned your ass for the last, 10 years. So I get it. But, you know, underestimate Russell Wilson into your own peril. And it was nice chatting with you, buddy.
Don't bring your YouTube beefs onto this show.
I just had to do it once. You know I never do that.
I know.
You know I never get involved in, like, comment wars.
No.
Like, I just don't.
It's like once a year.
Once a year. And so Tony Jackson,
congratulations.
Hopefully he finds it fun that he got mentioned on the show.
Well, You mentioned Germain Ifedi's name. Let's start with the offensive line in this game against the Broncos. 21 pressures allowed by the offensive line on 33 attempts. 33 passing attempts, 21 pressures. Now, you can have more than one guy give up pressure on a particular play, so it's not that he only...
Not 21 separate plays where pressure was given up.
Correct. But that does give you kind of the state of the offensive line. And if you had to guess, of those 21 pressures, how many do you think Germain Ifedi gave up?
Enough to make Russell Wilson run for his life. I know that. Enough to give up. How many sacks did Germain Ifedi give up?
2.
Let me ask you that. Yeah, okay.
And that happened to also be the number of pressures. So his 2 pressures that he gave up resulted in sacks. So that leaves 19 other pressures from the offensive line. Ethan Posick with 6, Dwayne Brown with 5, Justin Britt with 2. Russell Wilson, they attributed 5 of those to for, holding on to the ball too long, or in the case
ran into a couple.
He ran into a couple sacks, so you can't get mad at Germain Ifedi if he's taking Von Miller and kind of pushing him behind Russell Wilson, and then Russell Wilson actually runs backwards. That's kind of on Russell, and I think that's how they play it out in the, the Athletic did a really good job. There was an article not too long ago that they sat down with Walter Jones and looked at some Ifedi tape and said some of the things that Ifedi could do and needs to do better with, and some of the areas where he actually is okay at. And that was enlightening to me. So I don't know.
Well, neat. I mean, how many times? I mean, remember when Walter Jones sat down with George Fant and that was going to make him a world beater and an all-pro?
Yeah.
Like, you can't, this isn't like Freaky Friday, like where you can just like switch, Walter Jones into Germain Ifedi's body and he can be an all-pro. Like, that's not how it works.
But if you went into the game against Von Miller and you said, okay, Ifedi's going to give up a couple sacks to Von Miller, you go, yeah, that probably sounds right.
Yeah, I know. That doesn't mean that it's right.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm just saying maybe it's not as bad as... it's not unexpected, I guess. It's not, I don't know. It could have been worse.
Then raise your expectations, man. Like if the offensive line play didn't completely bum you out, then at least in the passing game, then you need to raise your expectations because that was not acceptable.
No,
not on any level.
It needs to get
Russell
better.
can play better as well. Like he definitely didn't help him out on a few occasions, but overall, the pass protection was pretty poor, and that's disheartening. Now, Denver does have, obviously Von Miller, who's maybe the best at it when it comes to being an edge defender, but Bradley Chubb's pretty good, and some of their interior guys are pretty good. I mean, we talked about it going into the game that their defensive line is no joke, and it showed.
And it's not getting much better with a matchup against the Bears coming up.
It's slightly better.
It's a slightly better matchup. Yes, I would rather face the Bears, even with Khalil Mack, than Denver Broncos with Von Miller. And there's other defensive lines. It's tough right out of the gate. And that's why I think a reason why we thought it was going to be a slow start, along with the rookies on the team.
Along with 2 road home openers that you play in a row.
I guess I'm still not shocked by it. The Seahawks were in the game. The defense helped keep in the game. And let's start right out with some of the highlights. I mean, Earl Thomas was one of those guys that helped get the Seahawks in the game right away with a pick off Case Keenum.
Motion across the formation is the tight end. Keenum's going to throw on first down. He throws right down the middle. It's intercepted. Earl Thomas, 35, 30, looks for blocking near sideline. 20, 15, run out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Earl Thomas, welcome back to the Seahawks, my friend. The first pick of the season. The Seahawks have been looking for takeaways, and they get it from their all-pro, 6-time Pro Bowl Earl Thomas, and it was served up right in his wheelhouse.
Wait, who's doing color with Rabel this year?
I think it's Wyman.
Is it?
I think Wyman is it. Max Strong did it a little bit in the preseason. It sounded like he was grunting as he was trying to tiptoe along the sidelines.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there, but Earl Thomas, welcome back, buddy. Good to see you. That was nice to see. You can tell that Earl is locked in and that he's ready to play. He's going to make his money. He's going to make his money one way or the other, and so he's going to ball out, and that's not instead of pout. So that was exciting to see. And the pairing with McDougald, at least in one game, is an excellent one, seemingly.
3 picks out of both those guys. And McDougald could have had another one early on in the game, too. He had one, almost just off his fingertips. And then the Demaryius Thomas one, too.
Can't believe that wasn't picked. Usually when I stand up and yell pick as the quarterback starts to let the ball go, it's like 99% of the time interception.
Yeah.
And in this case, loads up, gets ready to chuck that thing, and I stood up in the middle of the living room, pick! And somehow that got through. And then Demaryius Thomas makes a catch on the weirdest painted sideline in the history of sports. I don't know if anybody else noted this, but it was almost like there were 2 lines. It's like it was feathered.
Yeah.
Like there was the more solid line and then like another line that came out from there that was like maybe another 2 inches, right?
Yeah.
That was like if you're familiar with doing things in Photoshop or Illustrator, things like that, it was like 50% opacity. Like you could see through it like halfway. Yeah. Like, what is that?
Pete Carroll noted that in his Tuesday press conference. Yeah, he said, I went back and watched the television copy, and you could see that if you look down the line, his toe would have been past the pylon, but that he picked up on it too. That the opacity of the white line, it was shaded into the green.
Yeah, I've never seen that before in my life. Like, did they run out of paint? Like, what? Like, was the can getting like a little empty when they were spraying that, and they were just like,
or it was the old paint from last year, and
right.
They repainted
like
to start the
year.
The
whole field like an inch and a half one direction or something.
Yeah,
and then not only that, but like I don't like complaining about calls, but it was very frustrating, the idea that they called it one way on the field, reversed it on the field, and then reviewed it, and then stuck with the call on the field because it was too hard to tell whether it was in or out because the lines aren't painted correctly.
Yeah, it's frustrating because that was a big play.
That was a big play.
Well, a big play for Will Dissly to start off his career right after the Earl Thomas interception. Russell Wilson hits him in the end zone for the first touchdown of the game to put the Seahawks up 7-0.
Russell under center. The turn, the play fake. Russell's going to look. He's going to dump it over the top. Dissly is in. Touchdown, Seahawks. The first touchdown of the season for the Seahawks. A 14-yarder scored by a guy they brought in to be a blocking tight end. Will Dissly from the University of Washington. Slow block, release. Beautiful pass over the top from 14, and the Seahawks go out on top 6-0.
Wyman obviously got a chuckle out of that. Like, just kind of giggling as Dissly's running down the field. Yeah, Uncle Will, man. That was exciting to see. It made me say Jimmy Who a couple times, that's for sure. Apparently, he's had a couple longer plays than Jimmy ever had as a Seahawk. Don't look for that to continue. That'd be my takeaway from that.
It kind of feels like a one-off to catch the Broncos a little bit off guard in the very first game. Yeah, I wouldn't go picking him up on your fantasy team expecting like big returns throughout the season on that week 1 pickup. But it was fun to see Will Dissly have such a big game. Somebody pointed out, I guess Hawk Blogger went back and looked at all the Jimmy Graham games, and there were two games where Jimmy Graham had better performances yardage-wise in his entire time with Seattle.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. I just don't see this as sustainable. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Broncos just thought, Dissly is a blocking tight end and didn't pay one iota of attention to him in film study and all that sort of stuff. And then suddenly, he gets him for a couple big plays. I don't see the Bears making that same mistake.
105 yards for Dissly on the day, and the first 100-yard receiving performance by a Seahawks rookie in week 1 in the history of the Seahawks.
That's a true fact.
That's a true fact.
Yeah, it took a Montana boy to do it.
There you go.
It's fun. It's fun yelling Uncle Will. I'm not going to lie. It's really great. I'm very much rooting for Uncle Will to be a bigger part of the offense and for this to continue and to have him be my new favorite player. I want that to work out.
Well, I would rather have him as my new favorite player than a punter, but seeing Michael Dixon and one of his very first punts early on in the first quarter, it was a beauty, man.
Michael Dickson, this time an end-over-end punt. Pac-Man Jones is going to let it bounce at the 10. The Seahawks are going to down this baby inside the 5-yard line. He touched it at about the 2. Did the Seahawk getting down there? Was it Nico? I think it might have been Nico Thorpe.
One of the best.
One of the captains on this team and captain for special teams. A 59-yard punt and down at the 2-yard line.
I enjoy the didgeridoo in there.
Yeah.
I enjoy the explosion. But we're going to have to work on the punching sound effect instead of a kick. Like, we need to find a kick instead.
Oh, okay.
That's a punch. But all that, the production value is great, Brandon. I just wanted to give you a shout out. And I wanted to say didgeridoo.
Well, I'm glad you picked up on the didgeridoo because I did replace the missile audio with the didgeridoo.
No, that was solid. So was Michael Dixon's performance. I mean, that was one of the more impressive rookie performances that you can have. I mean, how many did he have over 60? It feels like it was like 3 of them or close to 60, and just constantly flipping field position when the offense was struggling and shooting itself in the foot, giving the defense at least a fighting chance to get off the field. That is going to be a huge component to the Seahawks having a successful year, is Michael Dickson being able to keep up this sort of play.
His average was 59 yards in this game. So
that's insane.
And I think one of them was 47 yards. So I'm thinking all the other ones would have had to have been over 60 just for it to average out. And you had that one that went down inside the 5. And then you had another one in the third quarter where they drilled him deep.
Here's Dixon as Adam Jones stands deep, and this is an absolute mortar shell. All the way down, and it bounces out of bounds. It's going to be out at about the 7 or 8, maybe the 9. Make it the 5-yard line. An absolute explosive punt. Spiral out of bounds at the 6. A 69-yard punt.
See, now this is where Rabel's a little confused. Like, clearly that is the sound of a grenade explosion and not a mortar explosion. So he's got to work on that a little bit. But he's getting it.
I liked how he helped out with the production value on that one.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate Rabel's work on the show. Like, he's really helping us out.
I like how he's dialed in. He knows we have the sound effects, and now he's incorporating his play-by-play to match the sound effects that we've produced.
You know, it's a little disheartening that we're sitting here gushing over punter play, and that's like maybe our biggest takeaway from the game of positives. I'd like to shift a little bit to the running game.
Well, let's do that, because in the first quarter, I mean, there was something to be excited about. We can't not play the highlight from Chris Carson hurdling a dude and going for 25 yards.
Chris Carson back in as the single setback with a slot near side, and Carson gets it, and he jumps over a man at the 10, 15, 20, down the far sidelines and steps out of bounds. Holy mackerel, Chris Carson doing his Skeets Nehemiah impression, jumps over the top of the defender and picks up 24 and a first down.
What, who impression? Skeecha Humanana? What was it? What was that name? Was it Screech from Saved by the Bell?
I don't know.
What is this reference? Do we know who he was referring to? Does anybody know?
I have no idea. Is
this like a childhood friend that like hurdled somebody in the yard once? Is it an animal? Is it a wild animal? Skeecha Humanama?
Skeets Nehemiah is apparently a legendary hurdler that made an attempt to become a top NFL wide receiver back in the early 80s. So that's probably about Rabel's wheelhouse for when he was coming up in the NFL.
I was going to say, they must have played together or at the combine together. Or
Skeets Nehemiah. Ronaldo Nehemiah is his Skeets.
No, that's got to be Skeets. Yeah. That's amazing. He's going to have to update some of his vernacular, I think. Like, that's not going to work.
No, that was 3 years after we were born. So, and we're not young dudes.
No, I don't recall Skeets. No, that's pretty funny. But what an athletic play by Chris Carson, getting out to the edge and really, just showing his overall athleticism and the type of running back that he can be. The first half, I think, really highlighted what he can bring to this offense. He finished runs. That's what I love to see. He definitely had a run to the left side where he ended up colliding with two of the linebackers towards the end of the run, and he finish that all a beast mode style. It was really cool to see. That's the type of toughness that he needs to bring to this offense. He didn't get the ball enough. I don't understand where the thought process was here that we didn't hand the ball off more.
I think, and this is judging by Pete Carroll's comments on Tuesday, is that because Penny didn't have a whole lot of time in preseason for them to get a real good look, they
don't give the ball to Penny. That's the easy answer to this.
It sounds like that's the answer going forward, is that Pete Carroll was impressed with Carson, and he is going to be the clear guy now going into week 2.
Well, thank goodness, because Penny didn't look good at all. And Chris Carson, even with limited opportunity, really made the most of it.
I have to go back to the early 2000s with Holmgren and Sean Alexander. Sean Alexander was a first-round pick. They had Ricky Waters on the team, and that entire first year of Sean Alexander's rookie season, they didn't play him a whole lot because they had Ricky Waters. And they allowed Alexander to kind of grow into that number 1 role. So I don't have a problem if Carson is clearly the guy to go ahead and sit a first-round pick if it's, if he needs development time.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and declare Rashad Penny a bust and that I was right on draft day, that I shouldn't have liked that pick and all that. No, not even close. I am more than willing to give it, a year or two to see what comes. But as of right now, it's just obvious.
It's obvious, yeah.
Who the better player is. So can we please give him the majority of the touches, please? And then not only that, but actually give him touches. We were averaging somewhere over 6 yards a carry at halftime.
And that's going to be the key. One of the big runs, was the kind of give up run on the very first series.
Fine.
But we saw who the clear back was. Pete Carroll has now seen who the clear better back was. I like seeing Rashad get a couple catches. He had 4 catches, 35 yards. He was good in that role.
Sure.
Give him a few more of those plays, but let Carson pound the ball.
Absolutely. And I guess my argument, we have a Procise to do those things. And we have a J.D. McKissick who will be back who can do those things. For him to fulfill his potential, he's going to have to do a lot more than catch passes out of the backfield.
Pro Football Talk reporting that C.J. Procise may be transitioning to play more receiver now that Doug Baldwin's out with his injured MCL.
You better do something because he needs to do some work here to ensure that he continues to be on the roster when J.D. McKissick comes back.
Absolutely. Well, right after that big play by Chris Carson, we saw another big one by Will Dissly going way down the field, just bouncing off dudes.
Russell play fake, dumps it across the middle. It's with Dissly again, across midfield 40. He's still moving 35. He's breaking tackles 20, 15, 10, 5. Did he get there? No, he stepped out of bounds at the 5-yard line. Uncle Will, for heaven's sakes, 66 yards. Oh, my word. Down to the 5-yard line. Will Dissly for president. That ends the first quarter with the score 7 Seahawks, Broncos 7. We'll be back with more from Denver after these words from American Express. Holy catfish.
All right, it's official. One of my favorite things for the remainder of this season is going to be Dave Wyman reactions during a Rabel call.
Because he's just chuckling. And
he can't even help himself.
I know.
He's dying over there. That's hilarious.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. And if Will Dissly, if he makes it into the end zone on that play, do you think he goes in backwards, grabbing his crotchal region?
I'm not sure that that's a go-to Montana move.
No.
Yeah. I don't know. I could kind of see maybe fake riding the pony or something, or something more along those lines. But yeah, probably not doing a crotch grab.
Not doing the Marshawn tribute because
if he did, that'd be great.
It felt kind of beast modey the way he was bouncing off dudes.
Yeah, it did. Definitely a tough player. We've talked a lot about Uncle Will. Another guy who is able to get deep and beat the coverage late in the game. Good to see Tyler Lockett back at full form.
Russell from the shotgun. Play fake to him. Russell's going to half roll right. He's going to stop. He's going to pump. He's going to look. He's got Lockett deep. Lockett makes the catch. 10, 5, touchdown! Seahawks, 51 yards, Russell, roll right, stop, throw back left. Lockett wide open between the defenders, downfield, and Russell was not going to miss him. He did not. The Seahawks take the lead 23-20.
Yeah, 3 catches, 59 yards on the day for Lockett. And I think they're going to be looking more toward him now with Doug Baldwin out maybe 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's going to be your number one at this point. And thank goodness he's back to full strength this season because we're going to need it. Losing Doug for a few weeks is, let's not kid ourselves, it's a big blow. I mean, right now, for this team to be successful this year, the margin for error with injuries as far as losing some of your star players like KJ Wright or Doug Baldwin, we don't have that margin of error. We need all these guys pretty much the majority of the year. So good to take some precautions with Doug Baldwin now, considering that he got rolled up on the other knee than the one that's already a bum. Yeah. And give him a few weeks and hope for the best going forward throughout the future. But I don't feel terrible about Tyler Lockett, Brandon Marshall, Jerome Brown, David Moore. Like that doesn't, I don't look at that and go, oh man, the cupboard's bare. I mean, Brandon Marshall looked like a legit NFL number 2 receiver right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, Brandon Marshall. And, you know, when you said that Tyler Lockett's the new number 1, I had to think about it. Is it Lockett or is it going to be Marshall? Because Marshall looked pretty good. He almost had 2 touchdown catches. He's clearly the red zone guy.
He's clearly the red zone guy. He's clearly the third down guy without Doug Baldwin. And so I have a hard time anointing Brandon Marshall to number 1 right out of the gate because oftentimes with these older veteran players, they start out the season pretty dang well and then just kind of wear down towards the end. I could see that happening with him if he's overused. So I'd rather that we see a lot more Tyler Lockett featured. Jerome Brown, he didn't do a lot in this game, but I believe in the talent that's there and what I saw in the preseason. I think that can translate going forward. And then David Moore's your wild card. I would love to see the production that everybody was raving about in training camp when it comes to David Moore.
I'm also excited to see what Keenan Reynolds can do in some time now, getting called up from the practice squad to fill in that roster spot for Doug Baldwin, because that was kind of when Doug Baldwin was out in the preseason, that was Keenan Reynolds' spot. So it was
that's a good point.
A good move for the Seahawks to be able to keep him on practice squad and is there right to call up as soon as Baldwin goes down. I'm glad you found out the info on the knee because I've been wondering, was that the other knee or was that but it sounds like it was he got rolled up on his good knee.
Yeah. So now you got 2 bum wheels. I don't know. Russell Wilson did it for a year.
Yeah, Russell Wilson doesn't need to cut as a wide receiver, though, either.
He needs to cut behind that offensive line.
Yeah, he didn't do that much of it, though, in the year when he was back there. So I can understand Baldwin needing some time to.
Oh, big time. No, I'm not calling out Baldwin as far as like having to take time off because Russ didn't. Do not mistake that. Like that is definitely not what I'm saying at all. Like you're 100% right. I mean, the position's different and every injury is different, and we don't know exactly what's going on with the knee that was bad coming into the season to start with. We just know it's something either chronic or something that is going to require a little bit of surgery, and you just got to play through for a year.
Let's move over to the defense because there were some guys with a few issues on defense. We saw a tweet from Tre Flowers this week that made it sound like he's heard all of the negative criticism. And he was a guy, too. I thought, yeah, he didn't have the greatest game, but the dude's a rookie, week 1. He was on the field for 72 of the 74 plays, 7 completions on 9 attempts toward his direction, 124 yards and a touchdown. And really, when I looked at the breakdown, Tre Flowers' biggest problem was against Emmanuel Sanders.
I was going to say
4 for 4, 86 yards and a touchdown. That was, and so that's Emmanuel Sanders. Okay. You put a rookie on Emmanuel. That's a dude that Richard Sherman would have had a hard time with, speedy wide receiver, against Demaryius Thomas. I think he gave up 1 or 2 catches, and then Cortland Sutton had 1 catch for 20 yards. But do you know who else had trouble against Emmanuel Sanders in the game against the Broncos? Everyone. Versus Bobby Wagner, he had 1 catch for 5 yards. Versus Tedrick Thompson, he had a catch for 5 yards. Versus Shaquille, he had 3 catches for 31 yards. Versus Calitro, a catch for 8 yards. McDougal was the only guy that when he was targeted against didn't allow a completion to Sanders. 100% completion rate against every other player.
He was hot. He's a heck of a player. He's a Pro Bowl talent, and he has been for years. That speedy receiver has been something that has, plagued us a little bit in the past here and there. But, as far as, talking about Tre Flowers on Emmanuel Sanders, does it surprise me that somebody who's been in the league for a long time and has played with both Ben Roethlisberger and Peyton Manning when he still had his powers would beat up on a rookie who was playing safety but 4 months ago? No, that doesn't surprise me. I didn't feel like it was a performance that he, A, couldn't bounce back from, B, didn't learn from. Mm-hmm. And I just feel going forward, the growth curve will be there for him. But yeah, he got smoked in the first go around. For me, the biggest thing is just all the free releases that he gave off the line. Get up and put your hands on somebody. Disrupt the timing. Disrupt the route. Get the leverage you want. Dictate to the offense. And I don't know if that's what Ken Norton's telling him to do, or if it's just kind of how
I don't
he
think
wants
that's
to play.
His own decision to make. I think that's a Norton decision.
Well, I would like Ken Norton to get that big, lanky, strong corner up on those smaller guys to beat them up. That's what I want.
And maybe I didn't watch enough of Tre Flowers in the preseason to know, to really get a good idea of how good he is at putting his hands on guys and disrupting them. Maybe that's not a strength right now.
Well, only one way to get good at it.
Yeah,
that's to do it. And not only that, but like the idea too that the defense is so terrified of giving up the big play. We give up these deep in routes. We give up the flare pass out of the backfield. Like we are a little more aggressive with some of the blitzing, but I want the coverage to be tighter. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll live with the big player too, because we're giving up big-ish plays up and down the field, first down after first down, getting the defense tired, keeping the offense off the field to have opportunities, and it's a little frustrating.
Were they better with the blitzes? Because they didn't create any
I didn't
pressure.
say they were better. Okay. I'm just saying they were more aggressive.
I see. Because, yes, the 6 pressures on Case Keenum the entire day. 6.
The defensive line has to go in the disappointment category, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, the Seahawks got beat in the trenches. Big time. That was the storyline of this game.
I mean, you saw Frank Clark get in there for a sack. Deion Jordan only played 15 plays. They're trying to work him back in, it sounds like. You saw him nearly pick off a play. Got his hands up, got his hands on the ball. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, he can come back and be healthy. You don't want to hurry that back, but they have to find a way to get more pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, to be neutralized by an offensive line that's not that great.
It's a little concerning.
It's disheartening.
Yeah,
and I mean, just they weren't terrible the entire game. Like there were times where I looked at the defensive line and I was like, "Oh, they're right there. They're doing things that I would consider decent defensive line play, just not getting pushed 2-3 yards off the ball, like holding your own." But it just too many stalemates and not enough wins.
Yeah, and they got completely run over in the fourth quarter.
Well, of course they did. Who didn't see that coming?
Yeah.
When you're on the field as much as they were, what else do you expect? This all goes back to that running game circle of toughness thing. Not being able to commit to running the ball early in the game eventually catches up to you in the fourth quarter on defense of all places.
Pete Carroll pointed to the lack of third down conversions as to the reason why they didn't run the ball more than they did.
Which I understand, and I guess the only reason you're not converting third downs is you keep putting yourself in the hole with penalties.
Penalties or sacks. Yeah. Yep. That very first drive, it was sack for 6 yards, incomplete. Then you have a give-up play.
Right. And then the next drive, I think we started out like 1st and 25. Was that next drive, or was it the third drive? I mean, good Lord. What offense succeeds in those situations? None.
Yeah, it was sometime in the second quarter because they Yeah, it was probably the fourth or fifth drive because they hit Chris Carson for a 44-yard pass, and then Sweezy
holding on Marshall, right?
Holding on Sweezy.
Oh, on Sweezy. Oh, yeah, that play. And guess what? That was the correct call. He absolutely held it.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Can't do that.
No, and then the very next play, a Fetty false starts.
I know.
And then you're at 1st and 25.
I mean, that just shows you how such a fine line it is to success and defeat in this league. And the thing is, Sweezy didn't even have to do that.
No.
Didn't have to.
Because at that point, you're looking at least climbing back within a point after that 44-yard play. You're getting close to field goal range. Maybe you get a touchdown, and maybe you hold on to the ball enough to where the Broncos don't have time to come back and get another field goal. But that was a big swing in the game right there.
I guess one of the positives that I come away with here is this was a road game, and we were right there.
Yeah, 3 points on the road.
All the way up there, yeah. Competitive on the road. You didn't get blown out. Like, that right there, to me, I mean, is a bit of a moral victory. How much have we talked about how much the Seahawks struggle on the road, especially early in the season through the Pete Carroll era?
Yeah. And
it feels like year in, year out, right? And at least I look at that game and be like, that was totally winnable. And there's things that feel fixable.
Well, one thing that's not fixable until KJ Wright gets back is linebacker depth. And Shaquem Griffin and Austin Calitro, they shared time. I don't know if I could pick one to say one was better than the other, because I going back and watching it a second time, I thought that Shaquem was the worst of the two initially. I went back and watched, and they actually subbed him in and out a little bit in the third and fourth quarters too. And I would say between the two, they were both out of position enough to be noticeable every sixth or seventh play.
That's interesting, hearing that upon rewatching it for you, because my initial impression was that Keem was over his head early. Like, it really it felt that way, and a couple missed tackles that where you looked at and you're like, maybe two hands would be a little better. You know what I mean?
He really
which is a bummer.
He had one missed tackle. And he had, and then he had a couple times where he was out of position where it gave up big plays.
Yeah.
And really, Calitro, he was in the same boat, except he had two clear missed tackles. And he has both hands. So
yes, he does. True fact.
So, I'm not going to put it on that. I can look at it, though, and say Shaquem has the better upside. Calitro's in his second year. And for Shaquem to be transitioning, you brought up Tre Flowers. Shaquem Griffin also transitioning from playing primarily on defensive line and rushing the passer to playing weak side linebacker, totally different position as well. And I would say he has better upside. Calitro's in his second year, but I'm ready for KJ Wright to come back when he's ready.
Yeah, he's going to be a major upgrade. It sounds like there's a possibility he might play against the Bears.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, I just heard that it was still being debated.
Well, he's probably going to want to get back after that first game. But
look, I'm not going to sit here and hate on Calitro and Griffin as far as their play.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, your backup's trying to do your best on the road, and especially, I mean, both those guys don't have a ton of playing experience.
No.
And they're figuring it out on the fly. This is part of the growing pains.
No, it was one of the things, though, I wanted to go back and look at to see if one was clearly better, and I'd say they're both about the same.
That's a fair enough evaluation, I think.
Well, let's get into this preview with the Chicago Bears. Before we get there, Paul Baglio sends an email in, says, maybe I'm an optimist, but losing by 3 on the road with so many new players and coaches isn't that bad at all, especially in a season opener. 6 sacks is easily the worst stat. Take away that last pick, and Wilson's stat line is good, even with the bad throw. Marshall and Lockett can get us through while Baldwin is out, and Uncle Will. Improvement from the defense is needed, but don't forget the turnovers either. Biggest takeaway is this team is still scared to stick with the run game. We were behind by 7, and it seemed like we were playing like we were 2 or 3 scores behind. Against a pass rush like that, you got to try and run it more.
Yeah, I mean, spot on with that was a point I wanted to make about the idea that, I mean, we didn't run the ball more, and we weren't down 15 points, 14 points. There's no excuse in a lot of ways.
You're in the game.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll be running the ball against the Chicago Bears. If you're in the Chicago area or going to the game, go to Seahawkerspodcast.com/tickets. That'll take you to the Ticket Network page, and you can get some pretty good prices on last-minute ticket deals through Ticket Network. Seahawkerspodcast.com/tickets. Let's get to our interview with the Bears brothers, Will and Nicholas.
Yeah, bring them on.
And this week on the show, we bring on Will and Nicholas from the Bears Brothers podcast to break down the Week 2 matchup, the Monday night matchup between the Seahawks and Chicago Bears. Guys, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Doing great. I'm excited to get this going.
It's a pleasure to have you guys on because I just got done doing a little bit for their show, and these are cool dudes. They're going to have a lot of good stuff for you guys. I'm excited for this.
Well, I have to imagine that come about halftime of that Week 1 game against the Packers, leading up the Khalil Mack trade, he comes to Chicago, and then you're up 20-0 on the Packers in the Week 1 game in Lambeau. I can't imagine that being a fan of any other team would have been any better at that point.
You're not wrong. It was probably the best I felt in my lifetime besides the Super Bowl back in 2006, being a Bears fan. Like you said, Khalil Mack comes in, puts in a historic first half, strip fumble recovery, pick six, getting pressure consistently. It was a thing of beauty, and he's not even fully conditioned yet. He doesn't even know the defense. He just told him to do one thing, and that's get after Aaron Rodgers. He did that. Our first drive, I should say, was a thing of beauty. Matt Nagy had a great script to start this game, had the Packers defense on their toes, so it seemed like everything was coming together for the first time in Chicago, and then we had to play another half.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had to play another half, but you can hear a pin drop in Lambeau when Aaron Rodgers went down, and everything seemed to be going the Bears' way. And then, like Will just said, the second half happened. Aaron Rodgers throws for 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Bears lose by 1.
Yeah, that's not an unusual thing from Aaron Rodgers, but and then it makes it tough. I mean, it just a lot. We're both in the same boat. We both lose Week 1. And it does. It makes sports radio harder to listen to, especially when you see Rodgers put up, kind of a historic performance, really. I hear people comparing it to, like the Jordan flu game, and that has to be tough. But
no, it wasn't like the Jordan flu game. It was like Paul Pierce getting wheeled off in a wheelchair in the finals, and then coming back and being just fine for the rest of the finals and tearing the heart out of the Lakers. It was a total faker move. Aaron Rodgers was faking. He was faking because Danica Patrick was in the stands, just wanted to make her feel a little uneasy for a minute. Just reel her in a little closer. He was faking.
I agree 110%. He was faking it the entire time. Adam knows what he's talking about. I like it.
Well, it has to leave you with a little bit of optimism for the season because, I don't know, how do you guys really feel right now? Because it kind of seems like the Bears are one of the more hyped teams of the offseason, and that was even before getting Khalil Mack. So what are some of the reasons why Bears fans are so excited about their team this year?
I feel better now after I had a couple of days to digest it. That night, I was, deflated. We do a post-game show, and I had a hard time even knowing where I wanted to take any conversation after watching that. But, with a few days to kind of digest and reset and understand proper expectations, I feel better. But in terms of why we're excited about our team, there's lots of reasons to be excited. On the offense side of the ball, you bring in an offensive mind like Matt Nagy, who's supposed to, bring a modern offense to Chicago. Last year, we had a very archaic system that was backwards, for lack of a better term, and didn't put anyone in a good spot to succeed. And we didn't have any weapons on the outside. And then this offseason, you bring in an Allen Robinson, a big-bodied receiver who can go up there and get those jump balls, but also can beat defenders with some really crisp route running. Trey Burton over the middle of the field. Second round, you bring in a stud in Anthony Miller, who I have very high expectations for, not just for his rookie year, but his entire career here in Chicago. And then the defense was a top 10 one last year. You bring in a Roquan Smith in the first round. You get a Khalil Mack. It just seemed like the pieces were coming together, and I still think they are. But I think we need to understand that sometimes puzzles take time to put together. You can have all the pieces out of the box, but it takes time to kind of place them all in the correct order.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, just the optimism, all the free agent acquisitions, draft picks, just like you said, bringing in Matt Nagy to get rid of Dowell Loggins in that offense. The Bears were going to be in games because they can actually score, because a lot of the times it was just run Jordan Howard on first down, second down, third down, punt. Now that's not going to be the case with the Bears, and they need to learn. And that was the thing that we saw that in the second half of this Green Bay game in Lambeau, where the offense, still learning to be able to gel. So it's going to take time, but there are high expectations now. I think the Bears are a team that's definitely up and coming, and people should not sleep on them anymore.
So you guys talked a little bit about the wide receiving core. Not a lot of names that Seahawks fans, I'm sure, are familiar with. I mean, we know about Allen Robinson a little bit down in Jacksonville. We don't know exactly how good he can be because he had Blake freaking Bortles throwing to him. But one of the things that gave us fits against the Denver Broncos was a quick, fast receiver in Emmanuel Sanders. I was kind of thinking maybe Gabriel's that guy. Is there a guy that you would point to that maybe could be that guy to give the Seahawks some problems?
Yeah, I think Taylor Gabriel would be that guy. And we didn't see a lot of him on Monday or on Sunday night against the Packers, unfortunately. But he's a guy, if you get him in, a quick screen, he can take it all the way for a touchdown easily. But another guy who's quick, he can make a move, get open on anybody, is that second round draft pick that Will alluded to in Anthony Miller. This is a guy that, despite being a rookie, he can go out there and play and make plays. So those are two guys, in terms of the speed at wide receiver that you definitely have to watch out for. But you also got to put in Tre Cohn out there. He's a guy, yes, he is listed as a running back, but Matt Nagy will put him all over the field, in the backfield, and in the slot, outside. Matt Nagy's just going to look to give Tre Cohn the ball as many times as possible. So definitely that's another guy to watch out for in terms of that quick, speedy receiver.
Yeah, I mean, all three guys, that's what makes this offense very intriguing. Once all the kinks kind of get worked out, you have three guys who can really take the lids off of defenses in terms of Gabriel, Miller, and Cohen. Cohen, he's going to be lined up everywhere, either outside in the slot or in the backfield. So it's going to be interesting how those matchups kind of play out. But Anthony Miller, his last 2 years in Memphis, I'm pretty sure he averaged like 95 receptions per season, over 1,400 yards, 15 yards per catch. I mean, he's a guy was ultra productive. Again, I know Memphis, you're in the American Conference, it's a little less of, the talent, but I mean, all throughout training camp, we went to the vast majority of the practices. I mean, he has the entire crowd there just electrified. He brings that it factor to the offense, which is very exciting. And Nick, you mentioned that, Taylor Gabriel is a little non-existent. He had the first big catch of the game against Green Bay for 31 yards. And then we hit him on screens for 4 different catches afterwards. But the end result was negative 6 yards after that. So he started the game 1 catch for 31 yards, ends the game with 5 catches for like 26 yards. It's pretty crazy how that kind of worked out. But I think that would be the guy that would primarily go to. But we'll see. It didn't work last week, but you gave us some optimism when you're on our show, Brandon, that might just work this week against Seattle.
Yeah, we don't need it. We don't want to see any more of those screens. I think that's going to be a problem.
The screens are fine. Oh. We're good against the screen. It's just a swing pass out of the back.
That's true. That's a good point.
Just run all goes and then a swing pass, and you're good.
That's the strategy, right?
That's it.
Well, I kind of hate to bring you guys back to the loss on Sunday, but where do you assign? I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, it's all him, give all the credit to him. But I have to imagine you have to be assigning some of the blame to, either the defense for not shutting them down in the second half. I mean, 4 straight touchdowns, and, the offense wasn't productive either. What portion do you assign most of the blame for that loss?
Matt Nagy was aggressive in that first half, and it showed in that first drive going down and scoring a touchdown. But ever since that drive, it really wasn't the same play calling. It was after the scripted maybe 15 to 20 plays, you really saw the production level and, the creativity of Matt Nagy's offense really dwindle down. And that's something that, when Matt Nagy was hired, he did the same exact thing against the Titans when he was the Chiefs offense coordinator. The Chiefs didn't score a single point in that second half in that 22-21 loss wild card game last year. And we saw that just basically happen on Sunday night. So Matt Nagy is definitely, one to blame for, this loss, because again, the Bears go into that second half only scoring 2 field goals. Knowing that Aaron Rodgers is coming back, you cannot settle for field goals. That's not going to do it. And he also had 2 3-and-outs on back-to-back offensive drives. Once you do that, you're really asking for Aaron Rodgers to just tear you apart and just do what he does. But yeah, I think that the play calling really just took a dip down in production after that first half.
So, Will, we haven't really talked that much about Mitchell Trubisky to this point. How do you guys feel about your quarterback going into the second year?
I felt pretty good. I still do feel good. I will say there's a few decisions that he made or didn't make on Sunday night that kind of you wish he would be a little bit in a better spot by now in terms of like our tight end Trey Burton was open in the end zone on a third down play, and we're trying to give it to Cohen on a screen. And even though Burton wasn't the primary read, he's standing in the back of the end zone, both hands, waving him like, look at me. And he doesn't see him, even though if you watch the tape, he's staring right at him. And then there's a few times I was watching the coach's film today that he would just escape the pocket and kind of like want to run and give up on plays a little bit too soon. So it's hard. I think that, that was only his 13th career start. So you have to understand that he's still young. He didn't have a lot of starting experience in North Carolina too. So with this pick that we had last year, it's all about the potential. And I still think he has all the physical tools. He's just, and now when he's learning another offense here, he learned the Bear system last year. Matt Nagy comes in, and Nagy said like it took Alex Smith about 3 years to get fully comfortable in this offense in Kansas City. So patience is a virtue, and it's one that I'm going to try to adhere to as most. But heading into this season, I'm going to expect some missed opportunities early on, and then the hope would be that he can kind of correct these mistakes, because when he knows where to put the ball, he's usually fairly accurate. He has the arm strength to fit it through the tight windows. He has the mobility to escape the pocket. Maybe he just needs to have a little bit of a longer clock, not get those happy feet in the pocket. But yeah, I'm very excited about the potential that he brings to this offense and that he has. I just think we got to be patient. And I think last week, it's still last week, just a couple days ago, though, we saw the good and then also a little bit of the bad. So limit the bad, more the good, and we should be in okay shape.
Now, Nicholas, I know as a Seahawks fan, we knew at the end of the season or even halfway through the season that, in fact, it was probably the game against the Bears his rookie season where we knew that's our franchise quarterback of the future. Now, Nicholas, have you had that moment yet with Mitchell Trubisky?
Man, that's a really good question. I think it was the game going back to Cincinnati where it was just a dominant performance by the Bears, and you see Mitch Trubisky being able to make the throws on the run. He's actually running on options into the end zone. You just see this athletic quarterback and gives you that sense of hope that, like Will was saying, that potential of what he can become. I think that's the game for me personally where I saw Mitch Trubisky and it was like, okay, I think we are in good shape moving forward. We just need to give him the right pieces around him, get him the right head coach, and just, let that process just kind of handle itself. But I think that was a game for me where Mitch Trubisky really just impressed me.
I mean, last year he was playing with a bunch of undrafted free agents at wide receiver. None of them can gain any separation. I mean, names like Trey McBride, Dontrell Inman. Who else did we even have out there? Tanner Gentry at one point. It was a mess. And, that's something that the Bears have tried their best to correct this offseason. And I think between the scheme and the new playmakers, he should be in a position to be able to make some of these throws that weren't available to him a year ago. They were available a week ago. He just didn't see them. But we just talked about that. But no, I don't think I personally have had that moment yet. I think there's some things that he said that you like one of the notes that came out after this loss. The first thing he asked our head coach Nagy on the bus ride is, how do I get better? And you like that drive. You like that determination. You like that he's already trying to think like, how can I improve from this game? Like that's the very first thing in his mind. He's not dwelling on a loss. He's looking ahead. And I like the mindset. I like, again, everything he said. I like the physical tools. I just haven't had that game yet to really say like I'm 100% confident. And part of that could just be how many times we've been burned here in Chicago with the potential quarterbacks and then them kind of just falling apart right in front of our eyes.
Well, I'm looking for the Seahawks to get back in the pass rush this week because it was pretty poor performance against the Broncos here in week 1. They only had 7 pressures. What's the weakest part of your offensive line, in your opinion, right now? Where should we be watching as Seahawks fans for matchup issues?
Well, there is one weakness on the inside, and that's our left guard, Eric Kush. He's a guy that a lot of Bears fans are questioning why he is a starter over second-round draft pick James Daniels from Iowa. But he would be the guy on the inside that if I'm the Seahawks, I'm going to go after because Cody Whitehair, Kyle Long, pretty stout. Even though Cody Whitehair against the Packers, he gave up a few plays, but usually he's a pretty stout guy. But other than that, it really is the tackles for the Bears. Those are guys that can do their job, but they're not going to do more than that. I think Charles Leno is a little bit above average. Bobby Massey is a guy that, he will give up some plays. So if I'm the Seahawks, I'm definitely looking to attack those guys on the edges, but on the inside, throw some stunts at Eric Kush, see if he can handle him, see if he can recognize him. That's a guy that I would attack.
Yeah, and real quick, just for those Seahawks fans who are wondering which tackle's which, Leno Jr. is the left tackle and Bobby Massey is our right tackle. I do think our right tackle is the weakest link in terms of allowing some pass rush. So kind of like you guys, that's what Brandon was saying for us. So it's like looking in the mirror sometimes.
We're going to look for the defensive line to hopefully get on track. I know you guys don't want to go to Bradley Sowell at left tackle because we've had that experience in Seattle. It didn't go well. So hopefully your left tackle stays healthy this year.
Yeah, he's still here. He's still swinging over here in the back, for a swing tackle. There's a guy who I think they're hoping to replace him with in the future. But as of right now, Sal is the only other offensive lineman on a roster that has left tackle experience. So,
yikes.
Yeah, I thank you for at least you can empathize with how we feel about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as Seahawks fans, we know Khalil Mack. Who are some of those other guys on defense we should know going into this game?
Akeem Hicks. He's going to be the defensive end right next to Khalil Mack. I mean, Akeem Hicks is someone who I think has been a Pro Bowl snub in this past 2 years. Last year he had at our bye week 8 sacks, I believe, which was, it's incredible. And then he fell off. That's because last year he was playing like over 95% of the defensive snaps. And the Bears defense, I think, was on the field either the second or the third most in the entire NFL. So he just, quite frankly, ran out of gas. But now with someone like a Khalil Mack right next to him, it's just going to make his job just a little bit easier because a year ago there wasn't really an outside linebacker lining up next to him that warranted nearly the same kind of attention that Mack did. And I think you can see that early on in the Green Bay game where both Hicks and Mack were just generating, tons of pressures early on, getting right into the pocket, getting right into Aaron Rodgers' lap. So Akeem Hicks, he's going to beat you with his strength, with his bull rush, but he's a big guy, but he's nimble enough that he can beat you with a swim or even like a quick spin move too. So he has a plethora of moves to beat you with, but primarily he's going to use his strength. What about you, Nick? Do you want to hit the other side?
Yeah, we'll go with Leonard Floyd. He wasn't a guy that did much against Green Bay, and he is being hindered by a club that he actually has on his right hand because he broke that and won the preseason games. But he's a guy you don't want to get him one-on-one with a tackle. He has a bunch of moves that he can utilize, especially that speed off the edge. And before the Khalil Mack trade, Bears fans and the Bears are really expecting Leonard Floyd to really have a big season, maybe be that double-digit sack guy. And this is a guy, if he stays healthy, he's definitely capable of that. So I think the Seahawks are going to want to, double team Mack, especially after what he did to Green Bay in that first half. You're leaving, possibly a one-on-one matchup with Leonard Floyd. And, he didn't get to the quarterback. He didn't get to Aaron Rodgers last week, but I'm sure that he's going to want to be able to do that against Russell Wilson this week.
And a defensive end real quick. We had a battle for the opposite defensive end spot from Akeem Hicks. And it was between two guys, John Bullard out of Florida. This is like his third year. He still hasn't done much of anything. And then Roy Robson Harris, who is a transition linebacker over to defensive end. And even though he didn't win this battle per se, I think he definitely proved his case last week. He had a few different hurries. He was the big reason why Deshaun Kaiser was able to throw the interception at pick 6 to Khalil Mack because he was right in his lap. It was like in a hurry, like within a second and a half tops. So he's been flashing. He's quick off the ball. He's long. He's like 6'7". He's playing defensive end. So he has the body that you like, but I think he's starting to get a little bit of confidence. And I'm not saying he's going to go out there and, change this game, but he's someone who he's trending in the right direction. And personally, I'm excited to see his growth.
He's also the guy that injured Aaron Rodgers. He's the one who landed on his knee, so just got to be wary of that.
Watch out for that guy. Well, a name that we heard a lot about in this offseason was Roquan Smith, and he did hold out through a lot of the preseason. Is he a guy who you saw a lot of week one, or is he slowly going to be working in these first few weeks?
Well, I mean, this is a guy that we wish we saw more of because our starting inside linebacker, Nick Kwiatkowski, a guy that, yes, he can do his job. He's a good run stuffer, but a liability in coverage. He's just not able to keep up with some of those receivers underneath. So they bring in Roquan Smith, his first play as a Chicago Bear. Khalil Mack forces, I think it was Deshaun Kaiser, just in the pocket. And then Roquan Smith comes up the middle and makes a sack. but you also notice that the speed out there is a huge difference between a Nick Kwiatkowski and a Roquan Smith. So I'm thinking that Nick Kwiatkowski may have just lost his job after that Sunday night loss against the Packers, and I think you're going to see a lot more Roquan Smith in this matchup than we did on Sunday night.
Yeah, I really hope so. Roquan Smith, they had joint practices over in Denver, and his very first practice as a Bear after the holdup, he felt a little bit of tightness in his hamstring. They've been kind of very cautious bringing him back to that. But no, like Nick said, I don't know how much I buy that because of just how fast he was looking out there on Sunday night. Like, he goes out there, his closing speed was phenomenal. Everything that we thought we were going to get coming out of Georgia, being that number 8 overall pick, possible best linebacker in this entire draft. And I think we saw reasons why, especially with the closing speed, his ability to be in coverage and stick with guys. Nick Kwiatkowski gave up like 5 catches to 5 different guys and over like 30 yards given up after the catch, not able to bring guys down, corral them after the catch. But Roquan is a little bit different. I'm excited to see what he can bring if he does get more time. And like Nick mentioned as well, he's also someone who can be sent in on the blitz. He does a really good job. He does a good job at timing the snap, fighting through blocks, and of course getting after the quarterback too. So he's multifaceted, and we haven't seen anything because he's been, of course, really limited. We didn't even get to see him practice at training camp, nothing in the preseason. His first snaps we ever got saw was on Sunday night. It was a handful, and then I think he came in a couple series too late at the end too. So we'll see.
All right, well, it sounds like you guys are really high on your front 7. How about the back end of that defense, Nicholas?
You know, that's a good question because after watching what Aaron Rodgers did to him, you're not very confident. And, you know, it starts with the starting corners, who the Bears did pay a good amount of money to, you know, be productive. And Kyle Fuller gets burned by Geronimo Allison on a deep play. Prince Amukamara is not able to, you know, seal the edge on Devontae Adams. He gives up a touchdown. And then, you know, Bryce Callahan at times, who's a nickel for the Bears, just taking risks on plays, giving up yak right after the catch. But I do expect them to rebound. Kyle Fuller, you know, a guy who had a chance to seal that game with an interception, drops it. That's been the thing for Kyle Fuller. He's been able to be right there, right in the right place, right time, but just has not been able to seal the deal with an interception. As for the safeties, A.E. Jackson, I think, is a guy that Seattle should definitely watch out for. He's that ball hawk for the Bears secondary. And then Adrian Amos is a guy that's going to come up and make those tackles, fill in those holes in those 8-man boxes. He's going to be a run stuffer. But, yeah, it was a disappointing performance by the secondary overall, just because, again, that fourth quarter debacle that happened and Aaron Rodgers just winning that game.
For me, I'm a little bit different. I think when you realize it's Aaron Rodgers, you just kind of like, well, I mean, even the best defenses can struggle against Aaron Rodgers. And This is a secondary last year that, you know, was the anchor of this defense for the most part because we didn't have a pass rush. We didn't have a linebacker core in front of them to really kind of clean up the middle of the field. So they were asked to do a lot, not just in run support, but also, of course, playing their zone, sticking to their man as well. And they were a defense that only allowed one receiver all year to get 2 touchdowns in a single game. So like only one is Jordy Nelson. Like no other receiver for the entire season scored more than 1 touchdown. Opposing quarterbacks only had like a pass rating of like 77 on them and less than like 240 yards per game on average. Like the stats were there, and I think the Bears did a lot of bending last year and they didn't break, and they broke a lot in that fourth quarter. So hopefully if they can just take away that 1 quarter, everything is okay. And if the pass rush kind of, you know, comes to fruition like we're expecting here in Chicago for not just one half, but the entirety of the game, of course the secondary's job gets a little bit easier, but I'm confident in the talent on this defense. They were a top 10 defense a year ago. I believe the whole unit from the front 7 to even the secondary can be one that can leap into the top 5 if they play up to their potential. The question is if they can or not, and we'll find out. And Vic Fangio is, you know, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. So I mean, we'll see. He didn't adjust so well after the Packers adjusted at halftime last week. But I know Vic's a very prideful man, and I'm sure he's going to try to find a way to correct that.
Well, top 10 defense last year, you got Jordan Howard at running back and some pieces coming together. So I can see why, as Bears fans, you'd be a lot higher going into the season. But coming up, you got the home opener on Monday night against the Seahawks. Predictions from you guys. Are you going to lose by a little or lose by a lot?
I like that question. Lose by a little or lose by a lot.
I mean, those are the only two choices, so you have to pick one.
None of the above. If we're gonna lose, it's gonna be by a little. Oh, there's none of the above option. How about this? I'll preface this. If we lose, it will be by a little. The Bears tend to hang in there, but there's a lot of games, even in the past few years, when the talent level wasn't there, that we lose by just one score. I mean, it's something we've really struggled with, especially within a division where less than 7 points is the margin of victory. So for us, if it's going to happen, I think they'll hang tough, and I believe that coming in the home, Matt Nagy's, of course, first game as the Chicago Bears head coach in Soldier Field, they're going to want to play, prideful for him, come out there swinging, and I know Seattle as well, losing one on the road, playing another one, they want to come out there and give it their all too. So I'm expecting a really good game between these two teams overall, but if we lose, it's going to be close.
And remember, Will, they're honoring Brian Urlacher at halftime, so there's no way the Bears are going to lose that one. Home opener, it can't happen. So, but if they were to lose, it's going to be a close game. The Bears do play to the level of their competition. And I think the Seattle Seahawks, even though a lot of people are, counting them out, still got Russell Wilson, a top 5 quarterback in the league. So the Bears are going to play, to the level of the Seahawks, and, whoever comes out at the end, hopefully it's the Bears. But I think, just the energy that's going to be there that night. Brian Urlacher obviously being inducted to the Hall of Fame, the Bears are going to want this one. And I think they had that one in Green Bay, so they're definitely going to want this one in Chicago.
I will say one last thing on this note. Brandon Marshall is someone who's going to scare me in this game. When our current general manager came in, his very first move was to trade Brandon Marshall. So you better believe Brandon Marshall's coming in Soldier Field wanting to be like, hey, Ryan Pace, remember me? I'm still out here. I'm still out here. I'm still kicking. Yeah, I mean, I know how Marshall likes to play. Last week he had his kind of reunion with Denver. This week, Chicago, I can see him wanting to come out there and put a big game. And Brandon Marshall's a guy who, under the lights, tends to really elevate his game too. So even though he might not be the same kind of talent that he was in terms of his raw speed, his quickness, and all that, he still has the hands. He's still a very capable receiver in my mind. And you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson who can do what he does. Brandon Marshall's someone who. If I had him on my fantasy team, I would debate starting him.
I'm about to go pick him up on my fantasy team because no one has claimed him. All right. Thank you, Will.
Oh, man, Nicholas, you're a guy who can actually start an opposing player on your fantasy team?
I didn't do it against Green Bay. That's the only team I won't do it for. I can't do it. I have Kirk Cousins and stuff. So, yeah, I'll do it. I want to win.
Wow. Okay. We know where your allegiance is. All right, guys. Well, for any of our Seahawks fans, listeners who maybe have some Bears fan friends, where do they send those Bears fans to go check out your show?
Sure. You can just Google the Bears Brothers and it'll pop up. But anywhere you listen to podcasts, it's available. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. It was iHeartRadio, but they quit picking up the feed. It stopped at in February, and I keep asking, what's going on? But they haven't really picked that one up yet. But no, seriously, anywhere that you can listen to podcasts, you can find our show. And if they like to watch live video, YouTube's a great one. We have a live chat every single show. It's a lot of fun during the post game as well. Last time we had over 600 people in there chatting up the Bears Packers. So if anyone has any Bears fans that are looking for a place to hang out, especially people who are displaced, hanging out in the Seattle area, send them our way. It would be appreciated.
All right, guys. Really appreciate you coming on the show and breaking down this upcoming game.
Thanks for having us.
A big thanks to the guys from the Bears Brothers for coming on the show. And we mentioned it going into it, running the ball. This feels like that we need to get it back on track, but yet seeing what the Packers did to the Bears in that game on Sunday night, I kind of think the game plan's probably going to be going and attacking them downfield.
Yeah, that bumps me out a little bit because here's the thing. This when I looked at this matchup, the Bears defensive line is their strength, I'd say, on defense.
Linebackers,
Linebackers aren't great.
Well, you got Roquan Smith.
They're not great. And the defensive backs are lesser than Denver, and the safety plays a little lesser than Denver. So if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm starting to generate a game plan. Why bang your head against the strongest portion of their team, their defense? That's my fear. That's my fear that Brian Schottenheimer falls into that trap and tries to get too cute and tries to throw the ball a bunch. Look, that's great if you want to try to exploit their weakness. But if it's also a weakness for you to protect the quarterback, that defensive line is still going to get you in the passing game. So you need to take the starch out of that defensive line. You need to run the football at them, make them work, tire them down, run a bunch of screens, run a bunch of little passes to the halfback out of the flat. Make them run, make them hit, wear their ass out. And I am totally terrified that Brian Schottenheimer is not going to go ahead and just, I don't care if it's 1.5 yards, 1.5 yards, 1.5 yards punt for like the first 4 possessions. I don't care. It has to happen.
Or, the other thing you can do is you just don't have to do 7, 8-step drops with the quarterback. You can do a 3-step drop, try and get the ball out quickly.
Wait, huh?
I think it's possible.
Well, so here's the dirty little secret. You're going to always see Russell Wilson either in shotgun or with deep drops because he's short. Did you hear about how he's short?
I think I'm familiar with his height challenges.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the ways you work around that issue.
Sure.
And it just is what it is.
Well, we've seen him though. We've seen him be quicker in the passing game.
The year that he was 2 years ago with both knees injured, like, yes, we saw that quick hitting passing game, but a lot of those did come out of shotgun too.
That's true.
So it's just part of the gig when it comes to Russell.
Get the ball out quickly. If you're going to be throwing it early on, get some tempo going.
Just stay on schedule. That's the biggest thing. Like, that's why I said I don't give a crap if it's run first down, run second down, and it's 3rd and 8. I'll take 3rd and 8 over 3rd and 17. I feel like they have an opportunity to convert 3rd and 8, don't you?
Sure,
like
yeah.
That's a doable situation.
That's better than 3rd and 16. And if you take a sack on 3rd down, it's not as bad as taking a sack on 1st and 2nd down.
And then 3rd down, because now they know you're throwing and they pin their ears back, or you run the give up draw, which is like everybody's least favorite play in the history of football. I mean, I get it. I know why they do it, but everybody hates it.
No.
Except for the running backs, they're like, oh, cool, easy yards.
Get to pad my stats a little bit.
Yeah. Offensive coordinator hates calling it. The defense hates playing it because they're like, crap, now I got to chase this guy down. It doesn't really matter. Like, everybody hates
to the
to
first anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
How often do you see those succeed? One out of every 20 times, maybe?
Yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to bring up before we hit the break, Curly Hair Messiah on YouTube comments and says, we have Seabass out here missing kicks. Meanwhile, Dan Bailey, the second most accurate kicker ever, is still in free agency. Do we need it? Should we consider that? Should that be a consideration for the Seahawks after missing just one field goal?
What week do you start to panic about Seabass?
It depends on his performance, right? I mean, if he goes out and misses 2 kicks against the Bears, then I think it is panic time.
Or even a kick that's like in the under 45 range.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it was 46 and 51, something like that he missed.
It was 51, yeah, and then 46.
I mean, those are longer kicks, and he had more than enough leg.
Oh yeah.
Just don't push it left.
Pete Carroll said that he didn't hit it clean on the first one, and then the second one he hit clean, but there was wind and he just didn't get. You
know what? I saw misses.
I saw misses on both. But you know what? Considering the loyalty that Pete Carroll had with Blair Walsh, I think the loyalty is going to be there for a veteran like Sebastian Janikowski.
Yeah. Do we have the kind of cap space to bring in somebody like Dan Bailey? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on what the plans are for maybe extending Frank Clark midseason.
I don't know. There's a reason he's a free agent.
For Bailey?
Does he still have it? Yeah.
That's a good question. You can still bring a guy in for a workout, though.
It is frustrating to already have one game chalked up to like, could have been, could have been different if it weren't for the kicker.
You lose by 3, you missed a kick. Feels awfully similar to some of those losses last year.
Pull it together, Seabass. I was on the table for you. To get him here. I
have him in my pick'em team name.
Oh yeah, what's your team name?
I caught you a delicious sea bass. Some Napoleon Dynamite reference.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that literally what he says in Napoleon Dynamite?
No, he says I caught you a delicious bass.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I changed it to Seabass because we have Seabass as our kicker.
Very clever by you. There's some people that I need to call out for their team names. MK Cornfield. You know who you are, MK.
Has MK not changed your team name?
That needs to change, say, her team name, MK. Come up with something.
Well, some people may not know where the link is to change their team name.
No excuse.
You know what? I'll make a short link for it. Seahawkerspodcast.com/change.
Perfect. That should be easy enough.
And that'll take you to the spot where you can go on our Pick'em website. It'll kind of get you into the back end so you can change your name.
Yeah, come up with something good.
It goes for a few of you, but most people are pretty good. Like our winner from this last week, Seabass with laser beams.
With freaking laser beams. That's great. That makes me happy. I like that one a lot.
13 correct picks and correctly picked the Seahawks to lose, correctly picked them to win, and they lost.
Right.
Apart from Oliverius, who actually picked Denver to win and won the tiebreaker. So Oliverius technically on the top of the leaderboard, but for the VIP flockers, Seabass with laser beams is the winner last week, getting the CJ Procise autographed jersey.
Wait a second. Oliverius is immediately disqualified. I'm dead serious. Like that, you cannot have that. No. That is an abomination. Oliverius, you know what you did. And you are disqualified. There's got to be some sort of punishment for picking against the Seahawks in a Seahawkers podcast pick'em league. No, you are required to pick your team to win, even if you feel like it's not good for your results. Because we all do it because we all love this team and we're all fans. Oliverius, this is a quick do better.
Oliverius, Yaskeem, Evergreen, Dixon, Seagal 1212, Jay Kroger, he's a Rams fan, Jay Kroger, Legion of Earl, D. Baker, Andy Russ, Paul 2012, calling all of them out.
Wow. That many?
It's too many.
This cannot stand, Brandon. What are we going to do about it?
Well, I know what I'm going to do about it for our VIP flockers who have the weekly prizes. Because we gave away a CJ Procise signed replica jersey. So congrats to Seabass with laser beams. Paul, you are the winner. So next week is going to be a $25 Fanatics gift card. And as always, you can go to Seahawkerspodcast.com/fan to go to the Fanatics website to get your gear. A little kickback comes to the show. But $25 gift card goes to the winner. If you pick against the Seahawks, I have a Malik McDowell autograph rookie card is your prize. So I'll be substituting out prizes. I didn't want to have to announce alternate prizes. You guys forced my hand. I'm not happy about it, but it had to be done.
All right. So now we also have to come up with a strategy for anyone who continues to pick against the Seahawks in the overall league. Because if they finish higher up in the standings as a result and are in prize contention, there's gotta be repercussions. Because I'm willing, all of you out there that picked against the Seahawks, to give you a week of forgiveness. Okay? Maybe you didn't know, maybe you didn't understand how this works. I get that. I get it. That's fine. I'll give you a week of forgiveness. But if you continue this behavior, and end up in the top of the standings, that's not going to work.
No.
And this is fair warning.
I feel like it's fair warning.
I'll talk about this for the next 2-3 weeks, especially in the Pick'em show, just to be sure everybody knows.
Everybody should know.
So there's no excuses. But shame.
You know what? There's one reference that I do get from Game of Thrones, and it's the shame reference.
Yeah, you and me both. That's the only one.
That's the only one.
Because it doesn't need any context.
Well, getting in and thanking some of our members of the flock this week, Adam.
These are the real all-stars this week.
These are the people that I'm sure are not picking against the Seahawks, right? Better not be.
You would think. I mean, if they did, it was just a misguided week. And again, all is
maybe
forgiven.
they clicked the wrong button. Maybe.
Right.
I do have the ability to go into the back end and change your picks too. So maybe just before game time starts, I just go in and auto pick.
Wait a second. I didn't know you had this kind of power. Who allowed you to have this kind of power?
I have the power.
Oh, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be dangerous.
Yeah, we need to do a poll or something. Does everybody agree that Brandon should have this sort of power with his finger on the button? I don't know, man. I'm uneasy.
Adam, if you want that Cam
He's a vengeful
Chancellor
man.
signed football by the end of the season, I'm saying my wallet's open.
Understood.
And we will start with our thanks this week. Associate producer Dustin Mock switched over to PayPal at SeahawkersPodcast.com/support. So that equates to a raise for us. So thanks, Dustin.
Yeah, and so Dustin on the Ring of Honor today, just giving everybody a little heads up. He's apparently on a roll when it comes to the risk pick thing. And he's got tonight, the Thursday night game. He has the Cincinnati Bengals over the Ravens as his risk pick, and he seems pretty excited about it.
Is that a risk pick? I don't know if I had that one down as my...
What are the risk picks right now?
Indy is a risk pick.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me pull up week 2 so I know who they're playing. I just wrote down the team names.
That's fine.
So yeah, Cincy it was close, but they're only at 32%. And to be a risk pick, it has to be at 25.
All right, Dustin. It was a good try, though.
It was a good try.
Tune into the Pick'em Show. We'll tell you what our risk pick is. Dustin, you got to change your risk pick because it's not a risk pick.
It's just a underdog pick.
So who else has gotten in the flock so they get the bonus show so they get the Pick'em Show?
All right. We got 3 in at 12-12, and that's with Brian Noonan in at 12-12. Thanks. Welcome to the flock to Brian.
Noonan.
JC Stringer, one of our hosts, Colin's wife, JC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's in at 12-12. Welcome to the flock, JC.
I didn't know JC wasn't in.
She is. She's now.
Oh, okay. Jeez, that was a surprise. I thought all the Stringers were mandated by familial heritage to be in the flock.
Apparently we worked. We're just working through them, and now JC's in.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome.
Marvin Nelson, welcome to the flock, in at 12. Then we got Melissa Heilman, welcome to the flock, in at $5 for patches. And
she needs some stinking patches.
Yeah. We got Whitney Shimiyumuremi.
You know, all right. So I saw this name, and I like Whitney a lot. I think Whitney, I'm pretty sure that that's not her real last name, and she made something up that was so difficult to say just to trip you up. That's my theory. I put on my tinfoil hat when I saw that, and that's my conspiracy theory.
I think that's a real last name, Shimiyumuremi.
If it is, it's impressive. I want it to be trolling you. That's what I want.
I had to break it down though. But if if anybody has more than 10 letters in your last name, I think I should get like a little bit of leeway on the pronunciation. Yeah, on the pronunciation.
I want perfection, Brandon.
Reginald James, I can nail that one. He's in for 3. Welcome to the flock, Reginald.
Yeah, thanks for making it easy, Reginald. Or thank your parents, anyways.
Adam Barber, another easy one. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm not going to mess that one up.
No, probably not. I probably could, though.
Stephen Erat, welcome to the flock, in at 3. Jose Miguel Quintero, he was a PayPal donor, and now he is in at getintheflock.com. Welcome to the flock, Jose.
Yeah, see, again, another one that's easy to nail.
Yeah. Sean Hampton, in at 3. Welcome to the flock, Sean.
I don't trust Sean. I don't know why.
James Witt, in at $1. Welcome to the flock, James. And another James Eastwood, in for $1.
Well, all the Jameses, that's great. So if everybody else with all the other names would get in the flock too, I could retire from wheel grinding. So do that, please.
Well, there's some other people contributing to your ending of your wheel grinding, as Leland Hawks upped his pledge from 6 to 12, JD up from 1 to 5, and Nathan Gatland up from 1 to 3.
Man, well, I'm glad we impressed you guys. Or maybe you just wanted to get in the better Pick'em League. I think that's probably it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with our awesomeness, but I appreciate it anyways.
Well, getting into some email, Adam. Got one.
Ooh, I'm excited for email this week, actually.
Yeah, well, after our first Pick'em show, Mike Mason sent in some feedback, said, loving the post-game shows. How many members do we need to get full game commentary?
I don't know. But it'd be quite a few.
Yeah, full games is family time for me.
it's family time for me too. Just family happens to be Natty Isis. Like they're members of my family, and I spend time with them while I watch the game.
Mike goes on to say, just wanted to say, I've noticed that after Sunday, there's been some negative vibes going around. However, since the loss, I put on my science hat, and I have come to the conclusion that losing to the Broncos can only be a good thing. I don't think anyone expected the Seahawks to go 16-0. A more conservative but still optimistic number may be 11-5. Based on that, the Seahawks have to lose 5 games. And we've already got one of them out of the way. See how that's good news? Imagine how great it would be if we go 0-5, and then we'll know that we're guaranteed to win every game after that. A small part of me wondered if there was some very slight flaw in my logic, but I've run the numbers and have concluded that there definitely isn't. I fail to see how anyone could still be downhearted, knowing that we have irrefutable scientific fact on our side. Keep up the good work. Go Hawks.
Truth. Like hashtag science. There's no way that this is not a perfectly bona fide theory. I'm 100% in on that. That's great.
Mike makes a lot of sense. I want to subscribe to his newsletter, and it's I can't argue with it.
I want to call up and have him predict the rest of my life. Like, and give me that kind of hope. That'd be great.
Have you had your 5 losses? Because it's going to be wins from here on out, Adam.
I think I have. Maybe I got a couple more coming my way. Maybe some of the things that I did or things that have happened to me aren't technically losses and more like ties, and I just don't know that I got more like legit losses coming my way. I'm not sure.
Well, it's good to know that if you need science on your side, we can go to Mike to get it figured out.
Yes.
Got one more here from Evan. Says, guys, I've been listening to the show ever since the year after the Super Bowl win. I remember the day I found it like it was yesterday. I had a long walk ahead of me, a really crappy throwaway phone, and only the TuneIn radio app. At the time, I was still super jacked from the game, but wanted to hear about the aftermath, what the players were up to, and what the future held. Lo and behold, yours was the first podcast that showed up in the search when I typed in the unfinished word of SEAH. It was from then on. This was where almost all of my information came or was coming from. The words of you and Adam were the only ones that I could trust because they were always exactly what I was thinking myself. Unfortunately, I'm so busy with cleaning houses and working the grind of my other job just to make ends meet. And even though I make some money, it always seems to belong to someone else. Because of this, I have never been able to commit to a monthly contribution to the show. Money is tight, but over the past few years, I have passed the word along to others that were like myself, lost in looking for a podcast home. I do not know if they make donations, but I always pass the word on to leave a review or smash the like button and rate the show on iTunes or the App Store. Follow you guys on Twitter, find them on Instagram, you name it. I pass the message along one person at a time. I do plan on becoming a member of the flock full time when I can finally settle into this game of life financially, but know this. I will never stop turning ears and attention to the show. I will make sure that I can bring on board as many new little flockers as I possibly can. Keep up the amazing job and never stop the show. It would ruin my life if you did. Someday, I will make my contribution with actual money. Until then, I will continue to #flock the world. Go Hawks from Evan T. in Anchorage.
Evan, keep up your amazing effort because there are a million different ways to add value to the show. Because as we've said a million times on this podcast, this isn't our show, me and you, Brandon. This is everybody's show. This is all the listeners' show. We did this for you guys. So you can definitely contribute to the show by that sort of word of mouth. And that is very much appreciated, Evan. And it really kind of takes the edge off of you being a freeloader still. So that's great because all I heard there was excuses. No, I'm just kidding. Evan, that was great. And we appreciate it a ton. And glad to be your echo chamber that we're kind of thinking the same way you are on most days.
Hey, we could use some more listeners from up in Anchorage. So as long as we have Evan up there, bringing in all the Seahawks fans from Alaska.
They ought to be around.
Oh, yeah. What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Seahawks football on Sunday.
That's true.
Ice fishing on Saturday.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to do in Alaska.
Oh, I know.
You can be outside.
No, I know, but I mean on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. There's only one thing to do.
Well, another place you can send folks is to our YouTube channel to subscribe there, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Go there and check out this week's 3 and 3 Out with Clinton Bonner.
Now, that was entertaining. I really like the idea of Clinton doing this on the video as a video on the regular.
Yeah.
Like, this is good. This is a step up. I like this better.
So
Clinton's a lot of fun to listen to.
Oh, yeah. He puts together a great segment of 3 in, 3 out. And if you don't understand it, what Clinton does is he goes way more in depth. As he says, he tries to get into the nooks and crannies of Seahawks football. So everybody knows, the offensive line had a tough time. Will Dissly had an awesome game. Yes, those things off the table for the 3 in, 3 out. He goes deeper than that, and you can catch it on the YouTube channel. The other thing I'm going to do is put it out in audio format. So if you download our Seahawkers podcast app, then you get you'll get just the audio version of Clinton Bonner's 3 in, 3 out. But you can catch it on the YouTube channel, video. But yeah, download the app for the Seahawkers podcast or get in the flock, and the audio versions will be posted there too.
Nifty. Yeah, that's really cool that we can do both those things. So at what point, Brandon, are we going to start broadcasting the video of us doing this show?
That's a good question. Maybe that's the next goal at gettintheflock.com. How many flockers do we need to be broadcasting our video every week?
For me to put this face on a screen every week? I don't know, man. Feels like it's probably going to take a lot. But I do think that I like the idea of having the video podcast. I mean, I actually consume a couple podcasts via YouTube. I enjoy watching the people talk. I don't know why. Maybe it's the facial expressions and the hand gestures and just kind of the basic interaction. But I think it would be easy-ish enough to do. Sans the editing. That's going to be the toughest part. Well, maybe it'll just be the live feed version.
Or maybe we just don't edit it, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, it'll just be the unedited shizzle.
Well, something to think about.
Yeah.
It's on our
radar.
radar.
Let us know what you think, guys. Yeah.
All right, Adam, what do you say we get into some do better and better at life?
Cool.
My do better this week is for armchair scientists. And I'm guilty of this on this one. Because one of the things that we heard going into Denver and after the loss was how much the altitude impacts players going from low altitude like Seattle to the altitude in Denver, and how it's an impact on players. So a lot of people saying, well, why the heck did Pete Carroll not go there a couple days early and get the team acclimated to the altitude? Well, it turns out, yeah, they thought about that. The team actually did consider that. And the thing is, with science, they found out that it takes weeks to acclimate to altitude that high. They don't have 2 weeks. Even if they went right after the Oakland game, that's still not enough time. So the Seahawks and Pete Carroll, they looked into the science. They knew it was something that they were going to have to deal with. And they said, yeah, it's not going to work whether we go there 2 days ahead, 3 days ahead, or just go there the day before. So to me, the lesson is, don't be an armchair scientist. The Seahawks, they know what they're doing. And if you think it's incompetence, do better.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. Like, it's tough to simulate that. What do you want them to do? Like, pump the oxygen out of the VMAC for like 2 weeks? Make it a little thinner?
Maybe. Maybe that's the next step. I don't know. Maybe that seems like it's actually something that, that whole facility would have to be way too airtight. Yeah, it would. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. Sorry, you just can't do it. Can't be done.
You just have to do your best, as it turns out.
Yeah. You know how you can help out getting tired in the thin air? Keep your offense on the field so your defense doesn't get gassed in the fourth quarter.
There you go.
That's how you do that.
And they just weren't able to execute that part of it.
So yeah, maybe complain about that part a little bit more than the lack of altitude preparation. All right, man. My do better this week is for the NFL, the National Football League, and their stupid app that's always been a source of frustration for me to begin with. Like, it's always been clunky and crashes all the time, and the menus don't make a lot of sense, and they make things just a little more difficult than it needs to be. Like, logging in and out of it is even a little bit of a chore, all that stuff. But that's not why the NFL needs to do better with their app. They need to do better with their app because my tablet, which isn't all that old, it's actually a nice tablet, is now obsolete in the eyes of the NFL. I cannot rewatch freaking football using NFL Replay on my tablet and Chromecast it to my TV because I have been written out of the NFL app. You're going to make me upgrade to another $500 freaking tablet because you The billion-dollar corporation can't take the time to write your code to make it so that it works with older devices? NFL, do better.
We're going to be hypocrites for this because, well, actually, we're not. I saw somebody.
We're not a billion-dollar corporation.
I saw somebody post one of our reviews because our app updated recently, and it made their phone obsolete for the update with our podcast app.
Hey, man, I'll tell you what, whoever wrote that review, like, if we were billionaires, I promise you that our apps would work with much older devices. And
our podcast company is the one that handles that. So it's nothing personal.
It feels personal when it happens, though.
The one way it is frustrating is that, it does work and then it just stops working. Like how come I can't just keep what's working? And why do I have to update? Why can't you just let me keep what I got? Like what? I don't understand. I have that frustration with video games on the Xbox. You plug a game in for the first time, and I just want to play it, but no, you have to download a 30 gig patch that takes another half an hour to an hour just to download. When you ship the game on the disc, it was physically working, right?
Right.
So I should just be able to play it.
That seems to make sense to me. Yes. Yeah. Buy game, put in disc, play game. That feels like the way that should work.
It does.
I don't know. The most annoying part about this whole NFL app thing is that I open the app, it works in the background, but it has a mandatory pop-up screen that says I have to update. And if I hit the update button and then zip out of the Google Play Store right back to the NFL app, like for a couple seconds, it still works.
Huh.
Like until it re-kicks up the, you must update app.
That's ridiculous.
All right, man, I'm just going to take over the show like for a 5-minute stretch and just do my do better and then go right to better life for myself.
Oh, we aren't going to alternate this week?
No, I'm just doing it. So eat it.
I was totally prepared to go right now. Okay.
Well, whatever. I'm a pitcher on the mound, shaking you off as the catcher. Like, I don't care.
I don't know if you can do that.
Here it comes.
Okay.
Yeah, here comes the fastball. So my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for one of the listeners, and actually is more like a sub better at life than a full better at life. Sam Sullivan, and a member of the Ring of Honor. You are a sub better at life than Skip Bayless, but the real better at life than Skip Bayless this week is Sam's brother, Spencer. Spencer Sullivan is in Northwest Montana right now with a crew of other really extraordinary, hardworking guys fighting wildland fires. Have you ever fought a wildland fire, Brandon?
I have taken the training, and I dug fire line for 30 minutes, and I was exhausted.
Yeah, it's hard work, it turns out. And it can be slightly dangerous running around with wildfire all around you. Like, it's these guys that go out there and actually put their safety on the line, they're just the health of their lungs, and just the overall wear and tear on your body, the being away from home for months at a time to protect all of our forests and our homes and all the things that are near and dear to us here in Montana. So Spencer Sullivan and all y'all out there fighting those fires, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, and I give Sam more of the assist with the better at life, and maybe not sub better at life.
Yeah, however you want to put it. I was saying, like,
Yeah, I don't know. Sub better at life sounds weird, like he's not better at life, but he kind of is.
That's fine. Assist. Better at life assist.
With the better at life assist.
There we go. I like it. Is that like a hockey assist or a regular assist?
I think it's more like a hockey assist.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Or like NBA, like basketball assist.
Well, I think the hockey assist, right? You get an assist if like one guy passes it to another guy and that guy sets up a score. Like that gets counted as an assist. Whereas in basketball, like it's dude passes,
only the pass.
Dude shoots.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess it would be a regular assist. Glad we got that out of the way.
I don't know if I am. Well, my better at life this week, speaking of assists and basketball, let's go ahead and give it to the Seattle Storm, champions of the WNBA. Seattle Storm, you bringing a championship to Seattle, better at life than Skip Bayless.
I thought you were prepared for this. That was the world's shortest better at life for world champions. And the only professional basketball team in Seattle still.
Isn't that like their third one?
Yeah, they've had a couple.
I also want to give a better life to Sue Bird because she had an awesome story in the Players Tribune. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Just her story about how she got elbowed in the nose, and because she was playing with the face guard the rest of the way through the finals, I think.
Yeah,
and she is freaking hilarious, and I think she's 37 years old, still playing.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's about our age, so yeah. I can't believe when you said, so I don't follow the WNBA. I mean, I know a few of the players and that sort of thing. When you mentioned Sue Bird and that she had an article in the Players Tribune, I thought, what is she coaching now?
No, she's still playing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Pretty amazing. And, went to UConn so many years ago, back on their huge teams that always won championships. And nice to see her.
I think they always still do.
You know what? I think you're not wrong. But yes, I was going to go with The Onion for their awesome article and their transition to becoming a news site with that article about Russell Wilson wanting to modify the play where he's immediately tackled by 6 players.
I'd seen that headline, and that is funny. I mean, because it's funny because it's true.
I just wanted to congratulate them from transitioning from satire to actual news.
Fair enough.
But I mean, when a Seattle team brings a championship to town, that's a better life.
Well, Brandon, this was a fun show. Fun to have football back. Fun to get started. Looking forward to Monday night against the Bears. It is prime time. We're always good in prime time. We're always good at Soldier Field. This was where Russell's coming out party was. I want to see a coming out party for the 2018 Seahawks, and I think we will.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks!
Go Hawks!
It's the Pick'em Show. Adam's got a mouthful of food, and I'm singing a new theme song to the Pick'em Show.
Nom, 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 nom.